This is somewhat related to your answer to this last question. Really, the forum and the series of forums seem to be a calling for a religious tolerance and understanding in the United States. Can you give us examples in the Muslim world of efforts for religious tolerance and understanding, and also look back in our history as a planet during World War II and during the 50s and 60s? Where are the examples of tolerance and understanding in the Muslim world?
Thank you. 60%, 59% of the world claim to be Muslim and Jews. So if this is a significant number, and there is always a call for, I don't like to use the word tolerance, because tolerance meaning that you're wrong, but at the same time I want to tolerate what you believe somehow. The word tolerance have maybe a different quotation, whereas the Quran teaches the same word we've been talking about again, is to show righteousness, kindness, and love. Righteousness, kindness, and love to those people of the book. And by the way, the Arabic word for people of the book, yes, mean, if you really want to look at from the roots, it says people who were worthy enough to be given a book. People who were worthy enough that God Almighty have chosen to be given a book. In the Muslim world, there has been many interfaith outreach gatherings. If you want to look at from the Gulf areas to the Middle East, there are always these gatherings where Muslims, Jews, and Christians get together in a formation to know one another. I mean, let's face it. The moment we put a face to the faith, it becomes, you know, I remember one time I spoke in one convention, and when people looked at me and said, "Oh, you are human." I said, "Absolutely. You know, I have bills to pay, and you know." So the commonality, the Quran itself mandate in chapter 2 for us to leave behind all these, put aside a belief. Imagine, the Quran says, after talking about Abraham and Isaac and Ishmael, twice, and there's not a verse that is mentioned twice in the same verse except in chapter 2. After a while talking about Abraham and Isaac and Ishmael, you know, the Quran says that's a nation way gone. They have earned their reward. And it is time for you to earn your reward. Doesn't matter, really, doesn't matter if the firstborn of Abraham was Isaac or Ishmael. That's what the Quran is saying. It doesn't matter if the firstborn of, if the setting was Jerusalem or Mecca. That's what the Quran say. What matters is, you know, it's a matter of belief for me. It's a matter of belief for somebody else that, you know, the sacrificial son was Isaac or the sacrificial son was Ishmael. It matters, it's a matter of belief for a person. But for right now, it does not matter. What matters is to feed that person on the street. And a person, when you give somebody a sandwich who's sitting on the corner of the street, he doesn't ask you, hey, are you a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim? Or it doesn't matter. Because I don't think food have any faith. Neither does, you know, there are common human principles and common human needs that need to be met. And it doesn't matter who meets those standards. God Almighty said, that's a nation way gone. They have earned their reward. And it is time for you to earn your reward.
If I may add two things. I think there's a verse in the Quran in chapter 49, verse 13, that makes it clear. Where God says, O mankind, it's not all Muslims or believers, O mankind, we have created you from a single pair, male and female, and made you into nations and tribes, that you may know each other, not that you may despise each other. So God created us with these different faiths, with these different understandings, to know one another. In itself, it's a sign from God. And then says that the most honored among you is the most righteous. How could you be a righteous man if you are hurting your neighbor, if you are hurting your fellow citizens, if you are lying to this or if you're lying to that. That's number one. Number two is that in chapter 34, God says that, and among his signs, that he created you with these different colors and different dialects and language. This is a sign. So appreciate this. And again in the Quran, God says, and this is for all of us, whether Muslims, Christians, Jews, or what have you. Had it been the will of God to make you one nation, he would have made you one nation. All Muslims, all Christians. But that's not the will of God. There is a wisdom behind that we have these different faiths, different understanding, so we could enjoy this diversity. So I agree with Dr. Enchassi. It's not only tolerance. The word that's used, mawadda, M-A-D-W-A, which is love, compassion, kindness, helping one another. So these are the words. So we want to go even more than just tolerating others for the sake of just, I have to live with this guy. I mean, we have to share this land. We have to share this nation. So no. We want to go more than that. I want to, this guy of Christian faith or this faith, I want him to feel I'm just like his brother. He can depend on me. And I want him to feel that I'm sincere. I'm not faking this. So that's what Islam really is teaching us.
I guess one of my prime examples that I've seen in terms of studying is what happened prior to World War II and during World War II with the Muslim community of the Middle East and their protection of refugees, Jewish refugees.
Absolutely.
That was an incredible eye-opener for me to see that's an illustration of the faith.
Yeah. I came from Libya, and I never had any thought that we were living like we had Jewish neighbors and so on. We felt we were all the same. I mean, so what if you have this faith or that? But we really felt, and this is true. You go now to Syria, you go to Morocco, you go to Tunisia, you see the way that people live. You go to Egypt, the way that people live. You'll always have exceptions among the different faiths. But the rule, the majority, they're really living in peace. And they respect one another, and they even love one another. As I said, they marry from each other.